Welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance. We are live on Telling It Like It Is. It is a live show. If you have any questions, please ask away. If you're watching this after the fact and you do have questions, put them in there, tag us. We will answer them. A few housekeeping things to go over. Next week, Startup TNT is having their finales, 3 events, one in Regina, one in Edmonton, and one in Calgary. The link will be up in the comment section shortly to get your tickets. Again, you come, check it out, free food, have some drinks, network the event, meet a lot of great people. So that's next Thursday. Also, the Alberta Technology Symposium is April 26th, 27th in Calgary. There are 8 days left of early bird tickets. Again, 350 of the top industry leaders and people in Alberta. So please come check that out. But without further ado, I am excited to talk construction today with Luke from Collegium and Andrew from Cetana. How are you guys today?
Good.
Hey, doing great. Thank you. Great having us on. I appreciate it.
I mean, as we ran into each other again at the Alberta IoT golf tournament, Luke, it was long overdue, and then I still long overdue from that date. So that's 100% my fault.
You know what? You did a wonderful segment on females in tech, and I thought that definitely displaces me.
Oh, nobody displaces anybody. We all got great stories and great things to talk about, and especially the things that you guys are doing in our ecosystem. So why don't we just kick it off? I always say more of you guys, less of me makes for a better conversation. So why don't we just talk about, maybe Luke, you can go first. Talk a little bit about your company, why you founded, and then Andrew, then you can go.
Sounds good.
It sounds great. I guess the long and the short of it, Collegium is a process and a platform that works completely in an integrated fashion to make real estate development a data-driven process as opposed to an analog process. So thinking, I'll stop there and let Andrew introduce himself, but we've got I tend to jump into things. Sorry, guys. But I'll park that, but that's us.
Yeah, I mean, the Collegium stuff is fascinating. So I think when we get into that and start comparing our projects and application, I think the audience is really going to see some amazing ideas and concepts and innovations that are swirling around the market right now with some of the stuff that we're doing. So I'm the CEO at Cetana Group. We are a new property development firm focused in Ontario for now. And really what we're trying to do is push the boundaries of the way property development is done currently. Our focus is focused on sustainable development, really pushing the levels of where we go with sustainability. So it's not just LEED certification anymore. Been there, done that. This is zero carbon projects, strictly mass timber, latest innovations in technology of smart building design and technology, healthy building, healthy lifestyles, all the above. So we're really trying to crack that, because developers are just not jumping on that train right now, and we need to figure out why, and we need to showcase that and show that it is an opportunity to really leverage. So, I mean, I can give a bit of a background on myself, but maybe I'll start there. We can go back to Luke and kind of go back and forth a bit.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry. Are you gonna get going? Okay. So Collegium exists because the business model of design and construction is 200 years old. The idea of the framework, or the contractual framework of a generally held contract, dates back to the 1800s, before technology, before all the advancements that allow us to do things much more efficiently. So the Collegium exists to be the antithesis of the thesis of design and construction. Really,
there's a word. There's a sentence.
Word of the day.
How about that? Hey, right? I know I used my big words today. So, but you know what? Andrew and I have aligned. Formerly, we were colleagues at a very large engineering firm, global engineering firm, and we aligned in so many ways. And when Andrew was saying that he really wanted to show that we could make buildings that were sustainable, mass carbon,
mass timber,
zero
mass timber,
carbon,
zero carbon. Yeah.
That, but he couldn't do it in the design and construction industry as it sits. So
exactly.
We came together and really started to problem solve. And maybe Andrew, you can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And Luke and I have known each other for quite a few years now. But for me, the real problem in my mind was, I've had some pretty amazing positions over the course of my career. There's a couple I'll say now, but I used to be the CEO for the World Green Building Council. I used to be a representative at the United Nations. Went on to do great work with Enbridge Gas and Magna. Really cutting edge, innovative ideas. And, I worked on some of the very first green buildings in the country. I worked on the first LEED Platinum building in Ontario, the first LEED Platinum homes, the first zero carbon building in Ontario, if not in Canada, I believe, and the first net zero energy. And for those in the audience that might know the difference, net zero energy and net zero carbon are two very different things. Net zero energy is generating as much energy on site as you use in a building on an annual basis. Net zero carbon takes it one step further and tracks emissions during production of all materials used in that project. And the Canada Green Building Council right now is really pushing their zero carbon framework. The federal government is asking for this. How do we get ourselves meeting the international sustainable building goals, sustainable development goals that the UN has put out? And, even after all the projects that we've worked on, even after the success of LEED as a program, only 18% of buildings in the construction sector can be classified as a green building. And yet 40% of emissions comes from the construction sector. And we're now working and building facilities that I would classify as dinosaurs. They're just not attractive. It's lowest priced bid. It's materials that are the quickest and fastest to put up. We've lost that sense of architectural marvel for the sake of engineering excellence and finance. And I think we've got to figure out how to bring all that back together so that finance, engineering, and architecture and healthy lifestyles can exist together. But with that comes a price tag. And we'll talk a bit more about the reason why, I kind of shifted from construction and advocacy and design over the fence to development. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think for me, it's understanding what's the breakdown of the issues. Why aren't more developers doing this? And it comes down to price, as I mentioned. And one thing that Collegium is bringing to the table is the opportunity to really look at the numbers, have everything exist in a digital platform so that everybody involved in the project can work on the project simultaneously. It's almost like a digital version of what's called the integrated design process, which is what green buildings first brought to the marketplace. And integrated design showcased that you could build a green building at the same price, if not cheaper, than traditional buildings. And that was a big coup way back when we started demonstrating that. The first LEED Platinum building came in way cheaper than we thought because we talked. And I think Collegium has that mechanism to reintroduce that mindset in digital, which is fascinating to me.
So I guess before we dive into, how Collegium works, why don't we, I want to just touch base a little bit on, old school versus why is it still old school, and why aren't we being more progressive and more forward thinking and more, all you hear about today is ESG, carbon credits, all that type of stuff. So why is the construction industry so slow to move? Or maybe inform us and the listeners, and maybe they're not, but from our conversations, I believe that they are. So, is it just going to be one platform, or what type of mindset do we have to change to really move it forward?
It's wow. This is gonna be a big answer, but I'll move through it really fast, as fast as I can. The idea of a generally held contract is that there's subcontracts underneath. So we build a pyramid, right?
Okay.
And there's many layers in this pyramid, from You think of your faucet, like Delta builds a faucet. You know that that faucet touches 5 hands before it gets installed in your house. And I think every time it touches a hand, somebody marks it up.
Costs more.
So your $100 faucet from Delta at the manufacturer level is $700 by the time it gets installed, right? It's like compound interest every time it goes up, except it's at 30, 40, 50%. I don't know what margins it. So it's massive. So we've got a really inefficient supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens with payments. Everything comes in through the top. And if you're 3, 4 levels down on the totem pole, you don't get paid for 60, 90, 120 days. Heck, sometimes you don't get paid. So what does everybody do in those cases? They build in margin, right? So they build in a little extra fat here and there. And so now you've got this ribeye steak with all this marbling of fat. And I use that as the general project analogy.
Especially in Alberta.
Right. Hey, exactly. So that's essentially what ends up happening in our construction ecosystem, is that everybody's building in these little bits of fat. And why they do it is because of risk. And why is there risk? Because they don't have all the information. Why don't they have all the information? Because the data that is located between the ears or within the computers of the architect, the engineers, all the special, very skilled people are disconnected, siloed, and the people at the top of the pyramid want it that way.
Yeah, I mean, just that last statement alone, Luke, is gold, I think, because before Luke and I met at, I think it's like the second largest engineering firm in the world now, but we were both on the executive team in the buildings group. And before that, I was at one of the largest general contractor companies in Canada. And you learn a lot when you're spending 6 years with a GC in Canada about the notions of risk, controlling projects, and there's a reason why GCs have done well. It's a model that has worked up until now. It's an effective model that developers and project owners have come to rely on. But with that comes overhead, and that pads costs as well. And you know what? The construction sector is very slow moving to change. And it's because of the structure that's been put in place. It's because of what Luke was talking about. It's also because when you get moving forward in a business model that works, you build up a network of people that you rely on for supply, for technology, for information, for leadership. And you don't want to break that model, because every time you do a project, you divide up amongst who you know, and everybody works together. And again, it's a model that worked well for a long time, but we're getting into a place of innovation that has not existed in the construction sector up until now. And we need to move, we need to catch up. I mean, everybody has seen the advancements in artificial intelligence, smart buildings, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, you name it. Every sector is moving. Medical, I mean, it's amazing. Construction is the slowest moving and last to catch up. And we have to change that model. And it's really breaking down who are the proponents on a project and how are we going to deliver a project. So, and because we're now, from our standpoint, we're focusing on these advanced levels of operations and energy efficiencies and lifestyle and materials and technologies within our buildings, the model can't work the way it has been. We've got to look for those new people, those new materials, new technologies that potentially could cost more because they're trend setting in nature. And usually a trend-setting thing costs more. We have to fix that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't have to. And this is where we get to it. Yeah. Building, I always, God, I got to speak with my hands. I feel like I'm Italian. I'm nowhere close, but building complexity is going up, right? We've got smart buildings, all these different things, the materials we use, everything. It's not like we're building straw huts or, stone buildings anymore. the complexity has gone up. With complexity, like your data requirements are huge, right? And if you don't have those data requirements, again, the same problem. People start padding their numbers because of uncertainty, of risk. So now we've got this bloated system that doesn't allow for innovation. I'll use one example. A very common software platform is called Revit. We use that to design build, and its true intent was to design a 3D digital twin building. Well, 3D building, maybe not digital twin because that's more advanced. People are using it even today, 40 years after it was created, to create 2D content. It's and thinking that it's good enough. But it's not, because if you don't invest in the early stages of your design, you don't have the data, which gives ambiguity, which then as soon as you kick off a project, you've got 100 change orders and it's going off the rails already. So and so that gets to where Collegium comes in, is where we connect the disparate pieces of information and act as a central processing unit. So everything from architecture, engineering, all feeds in, and that data is pooled and made available to every participant. So the ultimate vision is for it to be from planning, so your initial financing, all that, have access to everything, to be able to drag that data all the way through so you can make decisions in real time about your project and always have the information. That way we're able to pull out those marbles, that marbled fat out of the project. Everybody keeps their margin and is profitable. The project gets completed under budget. And this is how we're able to do net zero buildings, mass timber, all those things that are typically charged more for in the industry. We can do them actually for less.
Yeah. What I find fascinating is what we're going through right now, Luke, on one of our pilot projects. We're building a multi-unit residential building as part of a master planned Main Street community. The entire community is zero carbon targeted with mass timber, everything that I talked about earlier. And we started out engaging with investors, and one of the things, as every investor wants, is a cost consultant to review numbers and give them, because that's, again, traditionally from an insurance and from risk and investment standpoint, what people are looking for. What does a cost consultant say? And I took cost consultants for granted when I was at the construction firm I was at, because we had that in-house. But now at this project, we have to outsource that to cost consultants. And we look at the numbers coming in, the assumptions they are making on the types of buildings and materials, and the numbers were just not working. And it didn't make sense to me because I'd done this before and I achieved these levels of efficiencies in previous projects. And it took Luke and our architect and all of our engineers, from structural to mechanical, electrical to facade, civil, working with us to figure out where the issues were in the estimated numbers that the cost consultants were putting in. And we're at a point now, 2 weeks later, Luke, where the numbers are now starting to make sense and our margins are working for investors. But it had to be done where we had to go line by line and have every single engineer or expertise at the table looking at each number and saying, nope, that's not right. We can do it for this. And having these kind of, so I think what Collegium's going to do, it's not only going to disrupt the construction sector from a GC standpoint or engineers or architects, it's really coming right down to the finer tuned people that are involved in projects like cost consultants and others. And I think we're going to see disruptive innovation at its best in the construction sector if we do this right. And so far, it's impressing me, and I've been at this for a long time. So being able to kind of see that is really great.
That exercise too is typically would take months to complete.
Yeah.
we're not talking about a small development here. Like it's
10
huge.
buildings,
We're talking
650,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's a big high profile public development, right?
Yeah. We were able to within a couple of weeks, and mostly it was just trying to align people's schedules. But the data drove the process, and the data got us to the numbers, and everybody was absolutely refreshed. It was really, really cool. It was nice to see. So now
we even had some naysayers, right? We even had some
naysayers. Was it more just of an education process because they didn't believe you, and these numbers like, well, no, they can't. These numbers can't be right because we're saving so much money.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that, but we also had traditional mindset people, right? That said, we don't know, and then all of a sudden we start doing it, and they're like, oh, okay, this is really interesting.
When we build a model, we're able to extract quantities in digital format, like down to the nut, bolt, and screw, doors, windows, whatever, right? It within the Collegium platform and the way it all works. So when you are you going to trust a digital solution, or are you going to somebody with a piece of paper like blueprint drawings and a ruler, and they're measuring floor area and wall area? Who's going to be more precise? Like this is literally what happens in the industry today. It's asinine. It's absolutely blows my mind. Anyway, I get rather opinionated. I'm sorry. It's telling it like it is. So
that's why we're here.
There we go.
Well, but you know what? I mean, what I think is yes, we're in the middle of a project right now. We're in the quagmire of numbers and investors and design and development, all that, right? And that's great. I'm having a blast with it, and I like the challenge. And the people on our team we're fully collaborative and working together. So that's great. But what I see is the opportunity to really allow new materials and technologies to permeate the market much faster than it is now. And a lot of the issue around new materials and technologies, especially when it comes to energy technologies, unless it's proven and it's going to go into a building that's going to be around for 50, 80 years, hopefully, if it's designed right. And if something goes wrong with an HVAC system that's not proven, well, then who pays for that? And what's the insurance costs and everything else? If we can use platforms like Collegium to showcase the benefit of advanced digital systems and technologies, and we can source and right-size systems and technologies, I think the whole market itself is going to start an adoption curve that pretty well every other sector has gone through. And again, as I said before, we're one of the last ones to really adopt and move forward. And I think the construction sector is ripe to move fast once confidence starts to build in these things.
No, and for anybody listening here, just want to learn more about Collegium, just go to their website. It's in the comment section. Click on it; it'll take you right there. And obviously, you can reach out and find any information that you want there. So it's always good to see and I have a lot of people on here that are disrupting and doing a lot of a lot of great things. Especially in our province. I know Andrew, you're partnering with Luke, and you're in Ontario, but that's something that I also like to kind of see as, this is for the good of the industry. It's not an Alberta thing. It's not an Ontario thing. It's not a US thing. Exactly. It's about moving forward. And how is your partnership going to work kind of moving forward?
It's digital. We don't need to be in person. Everything, COVID taught us how to do everything in camera. I mean, we've signed major contracts and everything all by digital legal documents. So, Collegium is no different. I'm in Alberta all the time. We held our latest mass timber industry roundtable in Banff, and I have some of my closest colleagues in Alberta, including Luke and others. But I don't need to physically be there the way traditionally construction has been done. Yes, you have to have people on site and site supers and like that, but the design team and investors do not have to be in the room. And I think we're so confident with that now, to the point where it really is second nature. It's more like, what platform are you going to use? Zoom or Teams or Google or whatever, right? And Collegium is ripe for interacting with that structure, right? It just makes it so seamless for us. Yeah. Right place, right time, right, Luke?
I guess so.
Well, I'm a 30-year work from home guy, and one of the first companies I helped after we exited our company was getting companies to work from home, and the slogan was "Work's a thing you do, not a place you go." So it was hard. It was hard to tell people that before COVID. Now it's now it's making sure that they have everything in place correctly to work from home, blah blah, and all that kind of thing. So So speaking of working together moving forward, do you guys see more projects on the horizon for both of you, and what's next for for both of you, for Cetana and for Collegium? Luke, why don't you go first?
Well, Andrew and I have lots of planned work together. This project's going to last probably 5 to 6 years. It's fairly significant, but and then I'll let Andrew speak about what he's got in his hopper. But Collegium is still quite nascent. We are going through the Creative Destruction Lab program right now. We just had session 3 yesterday. I am so appreciative of their guidance. The ecosystem here in Calgary has been very supportive of us. I tend to keep a bit of a low profile, and it keeps pulling me back in and inviting me to all the events. And you know what? The mentorship is second to none. I'm grateful for the connection that we've made, Jade. Andrew, you might not know this, but Jade's a bit of a big deal here. And, everybody knows Jade, and it's fantastic. I can't believe how supportive the industry is. So, everything from Platform Calgary, shout out to Terry Rock and his team there. Like I said, the CDL program, and even the Alberta government for throwing so much behind tech innovation, right? So kudos to them. Yeah,
it's you hear us talk about it the ecosystem here, the community here is just so collaborative. It just puts a big smile on my face every time I talk about it.
No, it's and there's some fantastic companies coming through here. Like it blows my mind. My cohort at CDL is they're doing remarkable things. I feel, I thought of myself as accomplished within my field, and then I got into tech and I got humbled very quickly. and it's nice to be able to kind of mesh them together, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And Andrew, sorry, and I cut you off, man. Like, tell me what you're what you got.
Good. I think once we get this project we're doing right now, it's in a small town just north of Toronto called Innisfil. And if anybody knows Ontario, it's right in the middle between Cottage Country, Muskoka, and Toronto. And there's a new GO station planned for the town. There's a new hospital going in. And, this all started because the town came to me, council members, and said, look, we'd love to do some more sustainable green building, mass timber focused stuff. And the discussion kind of started there. But I've spent a lot of my career kind of on two sides of the fence, either public sector or private sector. And there's a lot of value I find in collaboration and kind of breaking down those fences. So as an example, I was for about 6 years, I was a council member at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And they have a $1.2 billion fund called the Green Municipal Fund that we work with municipalities. And that 6-year time frame really allowed me to understand the issues that municipal governments are facing. And, as I mentioned earlier, I was at the UN for a while. I've done stuff for the federal government, provincial government. I won't go too much into that right now. It's all been great. But how do we bridge that? And how do we look for opportunities? And that's what I think Cetana is all about. We're pushing the yardstick of innovation and technology and energy efficiency and green building design. But we're also looking for ways to give Canada the resources it needs for the type of building products it needs. So, for example, we know that there's a huge amount of expected immigration coming to the country. A lot of that is to support the construction sector and trades that we need. But where are these people that are coming going to live? I know there's a shortfall in Ontario alone of over 1 million homes that we need to build to accommodate these targets, let alone the growth projections within our own communities that we see happening. So one of the things we'd like to do is once we finish this Main Street, at least get it underway, is start looking at how do we design housing that is attractive to people coming in from other countries. Give them a home that they can be proud of, that is energy efficient and everything that I just mentioned. So can we create a housing structure, affordable housing structure, multiple buildings that can dot along the landscape in various areas where the families can live? And I think that's a really good feel-good message for us, and it's practical for the different levels of government. So us as a private company, how do we collaborate with different levels of government to realize these types of projects and build them as quickly as possible? And because we're doing it out of mass timber, the Canadian marketplace for mass timber is some of the best in the world. I probably said enough about where I've worked in the past to kind of demonstrate, capabilities and what we're doing. But I also, before doing what I'm doing now, was vice president of the Canadian Wood Council. And we pushed all the mass timber stuff across the marketplace. The sophistication and level of material that's available in this country, it is a market that is ripe for growth as well. And when you build with mass timber, you're reducing construction times dramatically, sometimes less than half. And that's a huge cost savings. So how do we work with governments, with different companies and materials and technologies, and be almost like the conductor of an orchestra of these types of projects that will really make an impact in what Canada needs going forward?
Yeah, to build on that, I love this partnership that we have, because what we are both aligned at is, hey, let's build sustainable net zero carbon buildings. Let's do it in the most efficient way possible using technology, not 200-year-old business models. And let's do it freaking fast, because to build on what you said, there's a million houses needed in Ontario. There's 3.5 million needed across Canada. Yeah. We're building less than half of that in a year. Our immigration is 400,000 people a year, and that's not going to slow down. So if we want to get affordability under control, we've got to change our processes, break these old business models and get with the times. That's really, really what it comes down to. So I know that there are companies at the top of those pyramids that are wanting to keep it the way it is. My challenge to them is adapt your business. You're in a powerful spot right now, but the business model's hit its best before date.
No, I love that, right? Put a little challenge out there to the big guys, right? Because, as much as we hate to say it, they have to adopt to change. And once they do, things roll a little faster, which is...
Well, yeah. And actually, sorry, I cut you off. I apologize.
Well, no worries. Continue.
I get a little bit amped up. But here's the other challenge. If you're a real estate developer and bottom line numbers are a concern, I get it. We've got a path to make them better and use better materials and better sustainability and all these things. It's, can you shift your mind away from design, bid, build to something more future forward?
No, absolutely. I love it. I love those challenges. I like putting out challenges. Oh goodness. Well, I'm always sad when these conversations, come to an end. But I do have one last question of you guys, and Andrew, you can go first. If you had one piece of advice for a startup or an entrepreneur, what would that be?
Well, that's really interesting. I think for a startup, it's making sure that you have a really good, tight, strong network of support. Too many people try to do it alone. They try to protect their IP. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't share the opportunity. There's a lot of people out there with an extremely good amount of knowledge and experience to help you out. I think that is probably the main thing, is just don't try and do it alone. Share your information. Become a storyteller. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. You have to be able to tell your story. And if you don't know how to do that, start learning. Get used to speaking on stage. I love keynote speaking. It's a passion of mine. It's just something that's in my nature. but you've got to be able to tell your story, share your product, share your information, and really get your message out there and be the best champion, but also the best collaborator on your team.
Absolutely. Love it. Luke?
I love that. Yeah. You know, you look at product versus distribution. You could have the best product in the world, but if you don't have distribution or distribute your message, you'll get nowhere. I would have to say it's community. It honestly is, building on what Andrew said. Surround yourself with good people. I know we have that here in our ecosystem. I think it could get better. And I think the last challenge I would put out is if we're building a startup, there is a lack of investors at the stage where, you know, to move from proof of concept to product market fit. And entrepreneurs, smart people, and their companies are dying on the vine, because in Canada we do not have that investment and that sort of mid-range, right?
Yeah, it's that missing middle, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, early funding ideas, you got cash there, and you get later on, you got money when you're proven. But how do you bridge that? And people starve in that point, right? For some reason in Canada, that missing middle, it's not there. I don't understand that. In the US, it's all over the place.
Yeah. No, it's definitely more conservative, but you know, and that was our challenge. Like, we're raising money right now at Collegium, you know, through our CDL network and through our professional groups, and you know, it's a challenge. It was a challenge earlier. It's better now that we've got a little bit more traction and such. But
I heard you had fun yesterday, Luke.
Oh yeah. The CDL room is humbling. So
yeah, there's no doubt.
Kind of like a Shark Tank for
they're a great group.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, you know, Luke, Andrew, I really appreciate you guys. I mean, Luke, it was long overdue to come on, and I love what you guys are doing and making a difference, and you know, hopefully solving a lot of problems along the way, which is what we're here for. And again, to expand on, you know, telling your story, I really appreciate it, coming in, sharing your knowledge, sharing your story. And I'm looking forward to constant updates throughout the next months and years. And I'm sure we'll be running into each other all the time anyway. So, and Andrew, I look forward to meeting you when you come out here. We'll go for a coffee or a beer, whatever tickles your fancy.
The coffee stuff. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go for a whiskey then.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds excellent.
All right, gentlemen. Well, again, thank you so much. And for anybody wants to find out more information about Cetana or Collegium, please just click on the websites in the comment section. Of course, the Alberta Technology Symposium link is there, and the Startup TNT link. So again, thanks to everybody for listening. Thank you, Luke and Andrew, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Take care.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.